This is at-home learning tools. The two that we're going to be focusing on are Seesaw and Jamboard. Here are our goals for today. Oh, I forgot to tell you about questions. If you have questions, when I'm presenting, Martine will be over in the chat, so she'll be answering those. And then whenever I switch with Martine, I'll be over in the chat answering questions as well. If you notice that Martine might be posting the link to the presentation over and over, that's because if you leave the Meet, you don't have access to any of the links that are posted in the chat. So if we see some teachers getting kicked out or coming back in, we'll post the link to this presentation there. I noticed that we had somebody recently come in, so I'm going to post this while Martine is working on the form for the attendance again. That is the link to the slide deck that I'm going to be using. I will be modeling a lot of what we're doing with Seesaw in actual Seesaw, but I have embedded some images, some GIFs that will help you later. Here are our goals again for today. First, we're going to talk about Seesaw. We're going to talk about creating and assigning activities with a special section talking about co-teachers, because we have a lot of our specials teachers in here, and what that could look like, some organizational recommendations, some things that you can do on the Seesaw side to make things easier for your students and yourselves. And then we're going to explore Jamboard, which can be used synchronously, which means what we're doing right now, like a live webinar working with our students in real time, or asynchronously, which means they could be working on it separate from when we're together. I want to use those two vocabulary words because if you have been looking for resources lately with remote learning or distance learning or at-home learning, you might be hearing those words synchronous and asynchronous. So I wanted to talk about what those meant. And then we'll have a Q&A at the end to go through whatever we want to go through. And we'll have a Q&A at the end of Seesaw as well and Jamboard. So first thing, you guys, if you are accessing from a computer, okay, this is where most of these are taken from, is on the computer. I see most of us that are in this Meet are accessing from a computer. If we need to go back and look at some things from the iPad side, we can, but you have more functionality as a teacher here because there's a class app for our students and a family app for our families. This is what your teacher dashboard looks like. Okay, now I'm going to tell you, you see my name on here multiple times. So you see Chelsea Cody up in the far left corner, and then you see Chelsea Cody has posted some things. I joined my class with my personal Gmail acting like a student so that I could demo some of these things for you today. You do not need to do that because there's this awesome thing in Seesaw called Sample Student, but I wanted it to look realistic for you. From the teacher dashboard, there's a couple of things I want to point out. If you see in the top left corner, if I click on my icon and my login, from there I can toggle between classes. So if you are somebody that is in multiple classes, so I see we have one of our art teachers. If you are in multiple classes as a co-teacher, this is where you would be going to move between those classes. If you guys set it up on your campus that you have your own class, this is where your students would go if they're signing in with their Google account to toggle between multiple classes as well. Okay. Then we've got our add sign. That's where we're able to post student work. So if we were in the classroom and students had done physical copies and I wanted to snap pictures and put it into their journal, I could post their work to their account. I can assign activities. Under that assign, you can also create and locate activities. So we'll talk a little bit about that. And then you can also send an announcement, okay? The announcement is interactive on the family side, not the student side, but you can send an announcement. And then finally, in the top right-hand corner, we've got our class settings. And we'll come back to the class settings, but I wanted to point out that wrench for you. One little webinar tip for you, if you do not have your screen split, so right now I have my screen split. So over on the left, I'm looking at my presentation, and on the right, I'm looking at you guys. If you haven't split your screen, yes, Ms. Aurora?
Chelsea, I'm sorry. I know you're doing a presentation, but I'm not seeing you. I don't see the presentation. I just want to make sure it's just me and not everybody else.
Okay, let me make sure. Can anybody?
Yes, I can see the
my presentation. Will you give me a thumbs up?
Aurora, I'm using the phone as well, and I can see the presentation. I think you just have to pin it.
Okay, then I'm going to leave. I'm sorry, and I'm going to join from
That's
the
okay.
phone like I did this morning. Okay, I don't know what's going on with my computer. Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
I'll
that's
be
fine.
back.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for asking. If something like that comes up, guys, I'll be honest, sometimes my AirPods like to throw a fit around 3:30 in the afternoon. So if I go silent for a second, go ahead, raise your hand, let me know. We can walk back through that. So over here again, I've got my presentation on the left. What you could have on the left or on the right is you actually walking through your Seesaw as well. And I'll go back in and model a couple of these things as necessary. Next thing I wanted to show you is what it looks like on the student side if they are accessing from a device. So if your student is logging into Seesaw on the computer, you notice this looks very similar to our teacher dashboard. Okay, only differences here is on the student side, they're not going to see all of the students. They're going to see activities and inbox, and they won't have as many options for adding. The most frequent issue I see with students here is if they're getting in and seeing, I don't have any activities. Well, if they haven't submitted any work, their dashboard, their journal is going to be empty. What's in their journal is what they've submitted. You also see they can see the sample student. So it's really important on the teacher side because I can submit exemplar work to the sample student and the students can see that. You also have an option in your class settings to turn off whether or not students can see each other's work. I can read the inbox as a student, so any announcements I can read, but I can't respond to the announcements. On the family app, the families are able to respond and they can also translate their responses. And then I've got my activities as well, just so that you can see what that looks like. Here are those class settings again. To access the class settings, I was on my teacher dashboard. In the right-hand corner, I'm clicking the wrench. And these are some of the class settings you can see. I can change the grade. I can change the name. I can add and remove teachers. So I can manage my teachers. I can invite co-teachers. I can change the theme, the color, the icon, those kind of things. But some of the settings I did want to point out is if you keep scrolling down underneath students, you can turn on or off if they can see each other's work. So if you're wanting students to only see their work, you can toggle off where it says students can see each other's work, and then they will only see what they are submitting. You can also manage the family in here as well. You can add family members. And there's a lot of different settings in here. We'll go through a couple more throughout the presentation, but there's a lot of customization that you can do inside your class settings. There's also right here, I have mine set up so students are signing in with their email or Google. You may have chosen home codes. Whatever you have them signing in with, if they're using their home codes, their home learning codes, yours would not say email and Google. Yours would say home learning codes. And there's nothing wrong with that. I just want to point out, so if you're wondering why it says email/Google, that's why that says that there. The next section, and I'm going to go start modeling after this point, that I want to have you look at before I go into the program is creating and assigning materials. Okay. If you are using the district curriculum, I am not giving any guidance on that side, how those should be assigned. Follow what has been outlined by the curriculum directors. Okay, whatever they have written in there, whatever you're being told on that side, follow that. But we're going to go through the basics of creating an activity from scratch and also using activities from the district and school library. So some of the things we're going to talk about is adding materials, are adding a student template. So it's kind of like having a copy of a Google slide and working on top of that and adding some voice instructions. When you go to start adding some of your own, you can come back and look at this picture here. In Seesaw, in the directions, you can insert kind of like emojis in the directions. And the way that you insert those are with these shortcuts. So you can prompt your students to insert a link, click the link by typing these shortcuts. So now I'm going to go to my Seesaw and I'm going to sign in. . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . And in my account, because I've been demoing all the different sides, I have a parent account. So I signed up as a parent of my Gmail. I am also an administrator and a teacher. So to toggle between those, I'm clicking on my icon and then I'm going to my teacher account. So if I was a parent, I can sign in as a parent and then I could toggle to my teacher account. So I don't know if that applies to anybody here. So again, here's my teacher dashboard. Here is my wrench up in the corner with all my settings. And then I'm going to go to the add button right now and focus specifically on our assignments. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger so I'm not squinting. So I'm going to add and I'm going to go to assign activity. When I'm clicking assign activity, that doesn't mean I'm posting one right now, but it's taking me to where I can work on the activity. As a teacher assigned to Garland ISD, you will have 3 tabs up here, okay? My library are all the assignments that I have saved, created, edited, that I'm using to give out to my students. So if I wanted to start one from blank, I would create a new activity, give it a name, something probably a lot more catchy than this, maybe something more organized, but for the demo, that's what we're gonna have. I would start typing my instructions. This is where you can use some of those shortcuts. And I just saw this one, so I'm just gonna demo this one. It will not show the shortcut here until I save, and I'll be able to see it in the instructions there. So I could say, check out this link. And have the link icon here, so it's triggering that for my students. I can also add voice instructions. Okay, so if I click add instructions, it'll start recording. It will save those as a clickable spot on the instructions for my students. I can add multimedia. This is where I can add links, videos, me recording myself doing a drawing, a photo, notes. Let's say I have something from the curriculum that's like a Google Doc that they'll be looking at, not necessarily editing, but looking at. I can upload something from my drive, the desktop here. So if I said in my directions, check out the link below, I can click that link and put in a link. The student template for responses is if you've used a Google slide before where other people can edit, it's very similar to using a Google slide that people can edit on top of. If I add a template, each student will get their own copy of that template. So when they're working on the assignment, they're just on top of that template. And I'll show you what that looks like here in just a second as well. There are more options, but I'm not going to go into any of those because if you're working with these, we're working on those basics again. So when I clicked save, do you see what happened to the link that I had typed in there? It actually turned to this little icon, the link icon. So those little shortcuts you can put in. If you've seen activities in the activity library, that's how they're inserting those icons. Would I upload a video from Screencastify? I will check that. I only caught the beginning of that question. I will come back to that question for sure because it looked like we wanted something else modeled. Now that I have one in my library, if this was ready to go to assign it to my students, I'm going to click assign, choose the students. I can edit the students and choose specific students. We're going to talk about folders in a second as well. But I can really narrow down to who exactly is going to get this. I want to show you the school and district library because I'm thinking this will make your life a lot easier. Some of our curriculum writers are submitting activities they've already designed to the school and district library. There's also ones from other teachers in here, but I can scroll the district library. So I'm seeing social studies. I'm seeing, I know Kim Webb had some the other day. Let me see if I can find her by searching. And I think, let me see if I can remember which one she was putting in. These are all activities that have been created by teachers in Garland and then shared to the library. So a lot of these probably align with things that we are doing already in our lesson plans. There's also a greater community here with Seesaw. These are all lessons that are being submitted by outside of Garland ISD users as well. So if I want to see what good instructions look like, and I've pulled some from here. I love Mo Willems. I've been wanting to look at this one, so I'm going to, yes, okay. There are teacher notes. Students don't see these. You could start using teacher notes, but that is a little bit more of an advance. You don't have to have those to assign to students. They have steps by step by step. They have a link in here. They have icons, easy to follow directions. And then they have at the bottom a family why. I always appreciate the family why because it's helping your family understand why you're doing that activity. If I wanted to use this activity here, but maybe I want to change a couple of parts to make it more geared for my students, I'm going to click this heart, which will save it to my library. And it says save to my library. If I go back to my library then, I will see the activities I have saved, and from there I can edit. I'm going to edit this one that I saved another day because I want to show you what the student template looks like. So if I click these three dots once I'm in the assignment that I've already saved, I can copy and edit the activity. So I'm going to copy and edit the activity. And here I am in the activity editing view. So when I was first creating my activity, remember this is how that looked. They inserted some emojis up here. Maybe I don't want those, so I could delete them. I could update anything here I need to update. I see here they also have some shortcuts embedded. So if I wanted to add more shortcuts, I could listen to their voice instructions. If I don't like those, I could add my own. So I deleted them. Maybe I say this similar to what that teacher was saying, but with my voice. I have an example here. If I want to check out the template, if I click on that template, then I can see what they already have. I could add pages, remove pages, add more in there as well. And it's just loading a little bit slow. Let me try and open that one more time for you. Okay, so here's my student template. It looks just like how Seesaw's drawings look. You can see, I'm going to assume that these three teachers were together. They could even be Seesaw ambassadors. In the template, this is their example slide next. And they've got pictures. Now, I'm not saying you need to go and create every template for all of these. But this is just an example of what a student template would look like. Okay, and then if I've made all my changes, I can save. And from there, I'm able to assign it to my students again. So I can assign, I can pick which classes, and I can edit which students. So I just want to pause for a second and see if we have any questions here so far. It's okay if you don't want to share them now. We'll have more question time, but I just wanted to pause for a second. Okay, so we'll keep going. I am including a link in this slide deck as well on how to share your activities to the library. It's not too difficult, but when I'm in my library and I go to one of my activities and I click the three dots, I can click share activity. And then I choose, do I want this to be in my school library or the Seesaw library? I'm not going to share this and show you what this looks like because my activity is not something somebody would want to copy. This is really good if you are working on a team of teachers and you're collaborating on lesson plans to be able to share those templates with one another, and then they would access them in their library. Okay, the sample student, I have a GIF walking through how to use the sample student here. As a teacher, if I am assigning something in Seesaw and I want to see what this looks like on the student side without signing in as a student, if I go to the sample student in Seesaw and click on that assignment for that student, I am able to walk through the assignment as a teacher. I can also use that to submit exemplars. Okay, I have a resource for you there if you want to watch on how to walk through this when we're not together. But if I'm in my library and I click on sample student, I can see the journals I've already submitted. For you guys, you wouldn't have things for your sample student here, so you wouldn't see any here. If I'm giving something out to a student that I've already done as the sample student, it would show up here. If you're wanting to see an activity through that side, if I go to activities, and then I'm going to click, I already did that one, add response. I don't know if I assigned these to my sample student. So on this one, I haven't done the sample student. I clicked add response, and if I choose sample student, I am able to upload the assignment pretending I'm a student. So students can see what that would look like. And I can also see what it looks like on this side. So again, that's on an activity. I went to add response and then sample student. Okay.
Chelsea, you did have a question in the chat. I know you stopped for a beat a little earlier. Would you upload a video from Screencastify by using the camera or the link multimedia attachment?
Ooh, it depends to you. Me personally, I would want it to show up on the video so students aren't having to click and then watch the video and then come back. So I would upload it using the video or the camera. So you can download from Screencastify, and then I would upload into Seesaw. There isn't a direct upload there. I hope that helps. That's a great idea, because especially if you're narrating something, walking through something, that helps. This is one of the things that I am really excited about for those of you that are co-teaching classes. Okay, talking about folders. If you haven't started using folders yet, you're going to want to after this, okay? We think of folders as being organization, but in Seesaw, they are also filters. They help filter things. So if I'm on an assignment, an activity that I've given to my students, so here I don't have any folder, I'm going to add one first. I'm going to go down to folders. I'm going to create a folder. You see I already have art. I'm going to add science. And I could make it something cute, maybe put an emoji in there, but I have science. On an activity, if I assign it to a folder, it will automatically go into that folder, which is nice when we have co-teachers, because if you are having 100 assignments submitted a day, 100 activities are being put into your feed. It's hard to know which ones are responsible for which teacher. So I'm going to go to more options, and I'm going to go to folders, and I'm going to choose science. I don't want to create. I'm going to do check. Got a little click happy there. So I added it to a folder, and now I see this science folder down here. It says science right underneath the activity there. In the journal, I can click on our folders icon here now that I have folders, and I can filter by folder. So if I am co-teaching with somebody and I'm in charge of science and math, if I click science, I would see only the activities that are needing to be approved for science. Only those activities. So then I can go through and approve those as necessary. Don't have any since I just sorted that folder. And I'm going to clear my selection. So now I'm back on my dashboard. And there's a short walkthrough on there as well. Both of these GIFs walk through exactly what we just went through today. I did include a link down here for 5 tips for co-teaching. So if you've got multiple teachers in a class, there are some tips there to help you be more successful with the co-teaching, to manage how your students are used to working with multiple teachers in there, and also adding multiple teachers. The last thing here is approving and returning posts. Once your students submit an activity, you are able to say, yes, this is good, and it gets added to their journal, or you can return it. And what that does is if I return it, it would start showing up under their activities to be done again. There might be some coaching that needs to go on with your students there about if you see another activity come back, instead of just clicking resubmit, what needs to be done and providing that feedback. Okay, and then we talked about sorting by folders so that you know which ones you are responsible for approving. If you are liking some of the things that we went into today, Seesaw actually has its own training program. Okay, it is great. Takes 90 minutes or less. I went through it the other day just to see how long it really did take. And a lot of what we covered today is in that program. You're going to be able to pull a little tidbit here and there that are going to really improve how you are using Seesaw as a teacher now, and then when we're able to continue using this in the fall. So if you're interested in working through that Seesaw Pioneer program, this is a link that will take you there and with directions on how to get into that program. That is all I have for our Seesaw. My mouse just went a little bit crazy there. A preview of all the Jamboard. If you have any questions for Seesaw at this time, if you want to raise your hand using the nod extension, and we can ask them now, or if they need to ruminate a little bit, we can ask them again at the end. Miss Sandra, go ahead and unmute yourself and ask away.
I had a question about recording in the student template, because when you record it, sometimes don't allow the students to work on the template. I use the caption option, and I use also the video one. Is there an easy way that allow the kids to answer, to work on the template after we record it?
Okay, can you break that down a little bit more for me? You're talking about recording. Are you talking about adding voice notes to your activity?
On the student template, yes.
On the student template. So you're talking about when I'm in an activity, I just want to make sure. So I am going to go to my library. I'm gonna have to nudge my Wi-Fi a little bit, I think. So I'm in an activity, and I am going to go to this one since it already has a template. And I'm just going to copy and edit it again. So you're saying when you have a voice.
Not there. Go to down where it says student template. Okay. On that one.
Okay. So you're saying when you record on the template, then they're not able to record?
They are not able to work after we record.
Yes, I have never recorded on the template here. For that reason, I will look into, I'm going to note this and see if there is an option for if I record for them to also record. But I have never embedded audio on the template here for that reason, so that they could record. I see a couple reactions over in the Meet. Did somebody else have feedback on that they wanted to share that they've been successful with?
Serena's got something.
Awesome.
We're on the same team, and we're doing the same. We're making the same approach. Since we're teaching kindergarten, we're adding as much audio as we can. What we found so far is that the kids have to then, so they'll push play on the template. We put it on all the slides and then in the template as well. They push play on the template, and then they have to click the re-record button in order for it to delete my instructions. But then my instructions are gone. So if there were two-part instructions, then I've lost part of it. But I just kind of had to send announcements on Seesaw, on Dojo. Okay, listen, in order for them to do this, they just have to click the re-record button. That re-record button doesn't actually re-record anything. It just deletes my audio. But we were just trying to figure out easier ways for them to get access to teacher instructions, because in the instructions on the page before they get to the template, we only have 2 minutes. In here, we could record for 5. That would be a way better spot, as long as it doesn't make it less user-friendly for the kids to get to the tools.
Yep, I think that that feedback is phenomenal, and we can share that with Seesaw, but it is on the template. My understanding of this, and I like I said, I will dig deeper, is there is only one slot for the recording. So once an audio is in there, just like you said, it has to be deleted for them to take the place. And it has to be something to do with the programming on their side, but I am making a note of it, so I will look and see.
And what Sandra was saying is it's not just the audio. Once my audio is on there, they can't access the tools at all until they delete my audio.
Yeah, or we had to submit it like a captions, but when we put it as a captions, they had to click to go back to the template. So for kindergarten, it's a little hard to do that.
Yeah, and some of this is too working within what the program has. There are definitely things that could be improved. And I will find a link to submit some of that feedback, because that is something that they could definitely change and work on improving for those students. Because you're right, having to go back to the assignment, listen to the instructions, come back into the template, start working in the template, we've lost them. So I agree with what you're saying. I don't have a good solution for you, but I will see if I can find anything other than what I do know, and I'll get that with you.
Sandra, you have something else?
One more thing, just to share, teachers can also, once that they get the template from the students, they can put notes on there and go over there. That's how help the kids, because they can see our notes directly on that thing that they are doing.
Yes, you are correct. That is very helpful. Any more questions on Seesaw? If you have any more on here, you can keep putting them in the chat and I'll answer them as we go, and we can come back at the end as well. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and stop presenting, and I'm going to hand it over to Martine, who's going to take us through Jamboard.
All right, so we're going to transition just a little bit to talk about Jamboard. And I'll go ahead and present my whole screen because I'm going to need it. And so Jamboard is essentially a whiteboard app. It is part of the Google platform, and it's got a few things that just makes it another tool that you can use with your students to help them be successful. So to start a new Jamboard, and I'll just walk you through this. You'll go to your waffle, you go to Drive, New, More, and then there's Google Drive. So that's how you access it from the Chrome browser. And then when you click on the actual Jamboard, you have this toolbar to your left. You can add frames, and you can share so that students can collaborate and work together. So if I change this to anyone on the link can edit, then that means that anyone who has that link can access this. Now, I will say the only part that's probably missing from the Jam is, let's say one kid writes over another kid's work. You won't necessarily be able to track. There's no revision history, so you won't know who's done what. And so I think this is probably really good when you're working with students in a live format, or if you're teaching them and using this as a whiteboard. So I'm going to give this a title. And then over here, I have my pen so I can write. It's not going to be great since I'm on the Chrome browser, but it gets the job done. I can erase my regular arrow. I can add sticky notes. I can change the colors of those sticky notes. I have that as an option. I can embed pictures. And I can change the size of those pictures, make it larger, smaller. And then I also have the option of doing the laser. I think the laser is great when you're doing something live. So if you wanted to, if you're talking through your students through a skill, you're saying, hey guys, I want you to look right here. Right here, this is where I want you to be. You have that option that's available for you. And then finally, you can change the background. So you can do a lined paper. You've got your grid. Nice, pretty blue. So that's pretty much what you can do with the Jamboard. It's real easy to use. Not a whole lot of learning. Like the learning curve is really short. And when we talk about using this tool in the classroom live, that would be synchronous. And then if you wanted kids to work on their own, they can do it asynchronously as well. And I left this video for you. It's just a video going over how you can use it as a whiteboard. So if you just need a refresher, it's available. We're going to try it out. So you should have the presentation open and available for you. And if you click in this space right here, it's going to take you to our Jamboard. And this is the one that your team did earlier today. So go ahead and join this Jamboard and just play with some of the tools that you see on the left.
So you're going to share that link with us?
Oh, yes. We're going to drop it in the chat. Give me 1 second. It is in the presentation as well if you have the presentation up, but I'm going to drop it in the chat. If that doesn't work, then I will use, oh, that should work. All right, so go ahead and just take a few moments to try it out.
Just a heads up, Martine, my Jamboard is taking a very long time to load. I don't know if that is
that could
occurring
be.
with anybody
There might
else.
be some Google issues going on this afternoon. If that's the case, I'm gonna keep rocking and rolling.
And we can come back and they'll be able to try that at the end too as well.
Yeah.
But I saw a couple of faces doing
they were kind of
great
loading.
It's the right link. It's just
moving slow.
A very long time. Yes.
Yep, it's moving slow, which that didn't happen this morning. We didn't have any problems, but I'm gonna keep rocking and rolling. We've got some great example by Christina Etheridge. She works right here in Garland. So here are a few examples of how she's used it with her students in the classroom. And then we have some Jamboard support. And then the person that made the video, that was the Ed Tech show. So just want to make sure I give credit. If you're working through the app, there are actually some features with the Jamboard app that are available, but you have to be using the app. So the Chrome app, the iPad app, the phone app. So it has to be the app. Those three features are shape recognition, auto draw, and emoji. So I do want to show those to you. And so what you see right now, this is actually my iPhone. I'm sorry, this is my iPad. So this screen that we're looking at right now is my iPad. And so if I go back to the Jamboard that we were working on, I'm going to get a fresh page here. I've got 3 special features that are unique to the app. If I click on this pencil right here, right there at the top, then that's where you'll find your shape recognition. And when you click on it, click on shape recognition, and let's say I want to make a square. Well, it makes that square nice and neat. If I want to make a triangle, it automatically fixes the design elements of it. If I change the color, it'll also change the color of the shape. So that's one option you have as far as the app is concerned. The second option that you have is the magic. I call it auto drop. It looks like a magician's wand. And so when I turn that on, and let's say I want to draw a smiley face, well, it already starts to read my writing, and then it creates that smiley face for me. If I wanted to do a heart, it reads that that's probably a heart, and then I can go ahead and drop that in. So I just really thought that was a really nice tool. And if you're working with students and some of them are able to do it and some of them are not, it could be just based on whether or not they have the app. And then the third thing I want to show you, I'm going to hit that plus symbol at the bottom of the page. You do have access to some emojis. This would be a great opportunity to give kids feedback, thumbs down, thumbs up. And there are even a few graphic organizers in there as well. Okay, so those are the features that are available to you through the app. I do want to make sure I give some time for questions.